Hi, I'm Christian.
And I'm Angela, and we are married
And bored.
Hey everyone, it is another episode of the Married and Bored podcast.
We're here.
Did you survive Valentine's Day?
We did. Didn't? We did.
We did.
We did all right.
We survived.
Are there any board game, Valentine's themed board games?
Fog of Love.
Love Letter.
Oh.
Fury of Dracula.
That is a good Valentine's Day one.
Running away from a stalker.
Well, it is.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be real life. Could be too close to home for some people. Well, yeah, we hope you enjoyed Valentine's Day. We will just say this is not a Valentine's Day themed episode, but it's just right after the fact.
Yes.
Do we celebrate Valentine's Day, Ange?
We acknowledge it. It's mostly like for our kids.
It is. It's a kid's holiday. And I will just say that both of us have messed up Valentine's Day in the past. So we kind of both decided, hey, this is not our best.
Yeah.
We are not putting our best foot forward on this day.
No, we're not. So we're just going to, you know what? We're just going to love each other all 365 days.
Oh, man. I mean, I'm sure some of you guys feel that too. Sometimes it can just be very difficult to make a special day very special. But anyways, what are we here to talk about today, Angie? We had an amazing event happen last weekend. Yes.
It was our annual now because it's our third annual.
It is. That's so cool.
Gaming weekend. So we are going to break that down and talk about some highlights, maybe a low light or two, and just talk about what it is. And should we jump right in?
Yeah, I mean, I think we should explain, what it is. Like, what have we been doing for the past 3 years? Maybe a little history. Started at the bottom, now we're here kind of story.
Absolutely.
A la Drake from Toronto.
A la Drake. Yeah. Okay, well, if you have never heard us talk about this before or you're new to the podcast, 3 years ago, Christian had this idea.
Just an idea.
Well, it was. It was an idea to have a weekend fully devoted to board games. Mm-hmm. And I think it came out of, well, at least I remember you telling me about it after the Game of Thrones game that you played with your friend Charlie.
Oh, Game of Thrones board game.
Because that took all day.
Yeah, it was 7 hours.
And you're like, man, what if we could have a whole weekend devoted to board games? And then as we kind of thought about this idea, we thought, well, it would have to be away from normal life. Mm-hmm. So, but not so far that it's prohibitive for some people.
Yeah, we're not crossing state lines here.
Right.
One person did.
That's true.
That's true.
So what we do is we have access to a beautiful compound up in Sholo, Arizona, which is about 3 hours from where we are. Mm-hmm. And we say up because it's in the mountains.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, Arizona, when you think Arizona, everyone's like desert, cactuses, heat. All you have to do is drive 2.5 hours from Phoenix north, and it looks like the woods. There's pine trees. It's a little cooler. So a lot of people don't realize that Arizona has,
snows.
Has woods.
Yes, they have woods.
It wasn't a cabin in the desert. It was in the woods.
And it was snowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole nother, some of our participants had a whole nother journey in the snow.
Yeah, right.
We did not, thankfully.
No.
But, so we went up, at the first year, I think there was 5 of us.
Yeah, there were supposed to be 6. One guy had to back out last minute.
Yep.
It happens. And so we had 5 people playing games for a weekend.
And then that was Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, half a Sunday, but yes.
Yeah. And then last year, we had a few more.
I think we jumped up to, I want to say 9 or 10.
Okay. That seems high. Mm-hmm. I don't know if we had a full 9 or 10. But then this year, it was 16? 16, yeah.
Yeah. Because of the size of the group, we had people come later, leave early.
Yep.
It was it's that kind of weekend. Like if you can come up for a day, please do. If you can't come, don't come.
If
You get the
we'll
idea.
miss you.
Yeah, we're happy to have you.
So this place has enough room to support housing that many people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an amazing time. So there were 16 people, some in and out, but I'd say the majority were there for a good chunk of time.
Yeah.
And we were there from Thursday noon until Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Because we did get back for the Super Bowl, which if you're in United States, the Super Bowl is a big deal.
Yeah. If I would have been smart, I would have planned a Super Bowl party up there as well, because that would have been really cool.
Yeah, but then we would have been home really late.
Totally. But I didn't even, when I booked it, I didn't even realize it was Super Bowl weekend.
Yeah.
So we had 2.5 full days
Yeah.
of potential gaming. So it was, and man, we packed it in.
So just some quick stats, like the 500-foot view here. There was, it says 17 players named.
Okay.
So
yeah, maybe it was because one left early. So yes, I couldn't remember if it was 15, 16 or 16, 17. Either way, it was a lot.
Yes. And we had 36 plays of board games amongst us.
Okay. And so that's some games more than once.
Yes, because there was 26 unique games.
Okay.
Yeah, and that gives
You want to rapid fire the little games that we played?
Okay, and I think there's maybe one or two missing, but yes. Forest Shuffle, Heat, Deception, Fox Experiment, Mission Control, Chicken, Food Chain Magnate, Return to Dark Tower, Too Many Bones, Pax Pamir, Wild Serengeti, Apiary, Queen by Midnight, Root, Brew, Ahoy, Dog Park, Mariposas, Thunder Road Vendetta, Wingspan, Dungeon Hustle, Calico, Seven Wonders, Illiterati, Marvel Dice Throne, Star Realms. I think
that sounds about right.
it.
Yeah. Crazy amount of games.
I know.
Which one is your favorite?
Yeah. So now we're going to break down just 5 of our things we wanted to talk about. We're not going to go through each game and rehash each game. We brought, and other people brought, way more than we would ever play. And that's the point, because we want to make sure that we don't know how people will be feeling. We want to make sure that there's a game for everyone's attention span. We want to make sure that if you're just not feeling a big, long game, there's something for you to pull off the shelf.
Yeah, we wanted a library of selection.
Right.
Because if you bring 10 games to a weekend where there's not, you don't have the choice.
Right.
And they all end up being duds, or you just don't have a good weekend playing those games. Mm-hmm. It could be not fun. So we had so many games, and I think what we should do is in the post for this episode, we'll put pictures of the table of all the games.
Yes.
And
it was on our Instagram a week or so ago.
But we'll do it again for sure. But yeah, so we wanted to just break down some of these games, maybe our favorite experiences, some new to us games, maybe some stinkers from the weekend. And we'll talk about why we liked it, why we didn't, and maybe why, if you haven't played it, you should check it out.
Yeah.
So you want to jump into our first category, Angela?
Yes. This is just favorite gaming experience of the weekend. And I worded it like that because sometimes your favorite gaming experience isn't necessarily your favorite game. Just, games in a vacuum, you can be okay, this is my favorite game. But sometimes you have just a really good experience.
Yeah, I was
thinking
in years past, I think we all had a good experience playing Rising Sun.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that's some of our favorite games.
Right.
Or Secret Hitler was a huge hit last year.
Yes.
Is it our favorite game of all time? No. But the madness at the table made it.
Elevated.
Yeah,
Okay,
totally.
so you go first, Christian. Favorite gaming experience?
Yeah, so this one was a new game for me. It was called Deception. I think it's Murder in Hong Kong or Hong Kong Murders, something like that. And it's kind of it is a social deduction game where everyone is sitting around the table and you have these cards in front of you. And each person has a potential murder weapon, and then what's the other one? I forgot
evidence.
There's evidence.
Something left at the scene.
Yeah, so that's like they left a cell phone, and one of them could be a cell phone, and the one on top could be poison. But you have 4 of these, each of these categories in front of you. Mm-hmm. And then one person is the lead investigator. And so what their job is to do, they know who did what.
They're like the GM.
Yeah, so there's only one person who did the murder.
Right.
And so everyone closes their eyes, and then the lead investigator goes, okay, murderer. And you know who you are because you get passed a card secretly, a roll card. And then you choose one card from each of those categories. So if I was the murderer, I would pick baseball bat, coffee cup.
Right, so the murder weapon was the baseball bat, and coffee cup was the evidence left at the scene.
Yeah, and then so it's the lead investigator's job to kind of craft a story around those 2 pieces of information.
Yep.
And I don't know if I can explain it any better than that.
Yeah, it's like you get a role. You're either going to be, and then the murderer, an investigator, which is basically like just the normal player. And then there's a witness. So that person gets to know who the murderer is.
Yeah, so if the witness can't come out and say, you did it.
Right.
Angela's the murderer. Because if the murderer chooses the witness, figures out who the witness is, then they win.
Even if the rest of the group found the murderer.
And so it's just a fun little thing where you go around and try to figure out based on the story that was told. So one of them, where I was the investigator, the murderer chose a kick to the head.
Yeah.
And like, I think it was a coffee cup. And so I was like, how am I going to make a story? The game helps you do that, where you have these cards that will say like, where did it take place? Where was the murder take place?
Yeah.
And there's categories on these cards. And so based on what the murderer chose, I had to be like, it took place outside, among friends, at business,
you
stuff
have
like that.
Story
Yeah, so it was fun. We played like 3 rounds of it. Yeah. And I liked it because it got a lot of people playing. We played it our very first night. And so I think all 8 or 9 of us who were there that night played it. And it was fun. It was like a low-key group game. Yeah. Some of those group hidden role games get kind of intense at times where you did it. And you're like, I didn't do it. Why are you always choosing me? So I liked the calmness of this one.
This one was more structured.
Yeah. And I would definitely do this one again.
Totally.
So have you played... I know there's other Deceptions too. There's Hong Kong and there's other ones, I believe, as well. So yeah, this was my favorite game experience. It was just new. Hadn't played anything like it before, so I had a really good time.
Nice.
What did you think of that one?
I liked it, yeah. I have a different one for my favorite gaming experience, but I like
totally.
Deception.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So my favorite gaming experience was, unfortunately, the morning where you slept in.
I did.
You had a headache and needed to sleep in, and that's totally fine. But I had a great experience playing Apiary.
Okay, Apiary, the new one from Stonemaier.
Yep. Not only did we get to play it 5-player, which is the max, but I also was the teacher, and I felt like...
Mrs. Peterson.
I felt like I did a really good teach of that one. And I'm not just arrogant, because there was one that I will fully admit I did a horrible teach on, and we'll talk about later.
You're not making your own honey?
I'm not patting myself on the back, making my own bee honey, whatever you want to say. So, and then I feel like now there was some breaks in the middle, like someone went and showered in the middle.
Yeah, that was... Being a watcher of that one from like another game table, that one was so weird to watch.
Well, yeah, we had a lot of big breaks, which isn't necessarily my favorite, but you know, whatever people got to do to get through it. But other than that, I felt like people understood what they were doing. They really got the hang of it, and it was a close game, especially for me being the only one who had ever played it before. Yeah, I really liked it.
I do like Apiary. I think I wasn't able to play it that weekend, but I'd like to. I mean, we have played it 2-player, 3-player with our son. Yeah, I'd like to experience that more at a higher level.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like a fun game. If you haven't checked that one out, And you know someone who has it, you should definitely give it a try. It's got a unique worker placement aspect where you can kick people off the areas.
Bumping.
Yeah, so you and I played Dune Imperium last night, which is a game that I never like to play, but for some reason last night I was like, you know what? We're going to give this a go. I lost terribly, but...
Not terribly.
I mean, in a game where the point scale is 12, that's the max, and I had 7. So I lost by 40% of the total points you could get. Okay. That's a lot.
Okay.
That's a lot. If I lost 40% of my weight, that would be an accomplishment.
That would be a lot.
So anyways, that one I think is very brutal because you can't, unless you have special cards that do it, once someone goes to the place you want to go to, you're screwed.
Right.
That's like most worker placement games. This one has a cool bumping mechanic where you can bump someone off your spot, and it doesn't really, it kind of penalizes the other player, but not really.
It helps them.
Yeah, in a way it helps them. So it's nice because if you want to go and get resources, you always can.
And you can bump yourself.
Yeah, and if you want to go buy new things for your little hive, you always have that opportunity.
Yes.
So I do enjoy that.
That is one of the fun parts about that game with 5 players.
Lots of bumping.
Well, and you never experienced the 4 and 5 player side of the board.
No, there's more options, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was just, it was just a fuller experience. I liked it a lot more.
Very cool. Anything else you want to say about Apiary?
Be yourself.
Oh, nice. And did you win on a tiebreaker or did you lose from a tiebreaker on that one?
I lost on the tiebreaker.
Which is money or resources?
Yes, it was. Well, now I'm forgetting.
It's okay. You lost on a very small tiebreaker.
Yes, very small margin. Okay, so next thing we want to discuss is our least favorite gaming experience of the weekend.
We're going down the mountain. We started at the top.
And now we're here. But again, we'll remind people, this does not mean it's our least favorite game. It just means that this was the worst experience, and we'll say why.
Okay. I'll start this one off. An episode ago, we talked about 2023's board game, Married and Board Game of the Year. Christian's
you
married.
mean the boardies?
The boardies of Fox Experiment. I was super excited to play Fox Experiment this weekend, and I did. And I had a great time. I won. I had an even better time.
Yes.
So with that said, my least favorite gaming experience was my second playthrough of that game. And it wasn't a playthrough. The way it ended up is that there was more people who wanted to play than I realized. So I was going to play again, but then someone's like, "Oh, can I jump in?" And I was like, "Well, of course. Like, I'm not going to say no."
Right.
So I ended up just teaching.
Okay.
And maybe it was because the morning where I wasn't feeling well, after, this was Saturday night, a day and a half full of games previously, like my brain was just shot. And, you get thrown questions that you've heard 100 times before that weekend because we, as the hosts, I don't want to say pride ourselves, but we make sure that we know how to play each game we bring 85%.
Well, yeah, so that we can be, so if someone wants to pull a game off of what we bring, we can be like, okay, we know how to play that.
Yeah.
We'll walk you through it or we'll play with you.
Yeah, because we've all been there. So you sit down at the table and someone opens the rule book and goes, "Okay, to set up, sit around the table and deal the cards face down." And you're like, "Oh my gosh."
So that will never happen at one of our gaming weekends. Referencing the rule book, totally fine.
Yeah.
Maybe it's been 6 months since you've played the game. You forgot, how many cards do you get during setup? Yeah, totally fine. But sitting down, opening the rule book for the first time and nobody's ever played it, not going to happen.
That's not my favorite experience, and I don't want that on anyone else either. But we played with 6 players, which is the expansions that we have, and it was just long, and there's just a lot of questions that I felt were answered earlier. I dislike repeat questions in a board game experience over and over again so much. And so I think there was just a lot of that. But, everybody has been playing games for a day and a half. So maybe by that point, they were tired. They had a few drinks. They were hungry. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so that was my probably least favorite gaming experience of the weekend. I was just I was done teaching and trying to analyze questions that people were coming up with.
And you didn't get to play.
And I didn't get to play. And that happened a couple other times that weekend, and it's fine.
Right.
To an
maybe
extent.
That colored the experience too.
Oh,
You
totally.
thought you were going to play.
Totally.
And then you did the right thing. You gave up your seat.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say
before.
because no one had played that game either who came to play.
Yeah.
And so I was going to be like, peace, y'all.
Right. Figure
it out. Roll these 6,000 dice. And one thing, I'll just add on to this. When you play with 6 players, there's so many pieces and dice and parts and cards and pens and the Fox market is huge.
Right.
It's 7 cards long. It's just, there's stuff everywhere.
It's a huge presence.
And we were on a huge table. We were on this really cool copper pounded table, probably 8 feet diameter. It's big.
It's big.
And it still filled the table.
Yeah.
It was huge. And so getting all the pieces out, making sure everyone had the right colors, and then doing the reverse, terrible.
Yeah.
So that was mine. It's still my favorite game from last year. I still like that game quite a bit. But that weekend, the second time I went through the experience, it was kind of a stinker.
P.U.
Did you get to play that one that weekend?
Yeah, I played your first.
The first
playthrough.
game. Okay.
Yeah. And I like it too. It's not my favorite game of 2023, as Christian repeated numerous times, but it's way up there for me. I like it. Okay, well, my least favorite gaming experience of the weekend was PAX Premier, 2nd edition.
Okay.
And as you were talking, I could be wrong, but I think this is how... I think I put some pieces together in my head of why it was my least favorite.
Okay, we have a love-hate relationship with this game to start with.
Yes. So we got it a few years ago.
Yeah, the second printing or whatever.
It's first of all, it's beautiful. We've done a podcast episode on it. Honestly, our opinions might have changed a little bit since then, or at least mine have, because I have played it solo a bunch of times recently. And since owning PAX Premier, we have also added on John Company, which is Cole. How do you say it?
Whirly.
Whirly. It's one of his historical games. So in the context of now knowing John Company, PAX Premier is lighter.
Which is hard to believe.
which is hard to believe because PAX Premier is still heavy. So here's how it went down and why it was my least favorite gaming experience of the weekend. It was, I think this was Friday night, actually.
Okay, that sounds about right.
And there is a guy in our group named Charlie. He's been in the military and he loves history.
He was a history major. Yeah.
So I just figured he will love to play this game.
He was stationed in Afghanistan for a year.
He would love to play this. And so he and a couple other people were looking to it was too early to go to bed, but what do you want to play? And I was like, hey, Christian and I will play one person and we'll teach you guys PAX Premier. And then someone in the background was like, oh, let's play Fox Experiment. And before we even get the box opened for PAX Premier, Christian's like, peace, see ya, Angela, and goes to teach the Fox Experiment the second time that he just told you about. And in my head, I was like, shit.
Oh, no.
I don't know it that well. I was heavily relying on you sitting next to me.
Were you really? Because I don't know it that well.
Well, but it just...
Two-headed monster.
It just, I felt like my safety net got ripped out from under me. I'm hanging on the trapeze by a pinky.
Yeah.
And now that I have played PAX Premier, when we came home from the weekend, I played it, I don't know,
2-3 times?
4 times solo. And now I'm like, oh man, that's how I should have explained it or whatever. But at the time, I was struggling to figure out how to even start explaining the game, because usually I'm like, okay, hey, we're playing apiary, we're all bees, and here's the goal.
Yep. Points.
Yeah.
Hibernate your bees.
Here's how you get that goal. Anyway, with PAX Premier, I was like, okay, so the goal is to have influence points, but that's only if the dominance check passes. If the dominance check fails, then you want cylinders off your board, and people are like, WTF
Yep.
is dominance?
They're like,
what's
what?
influence? What's, so I just felt like there was no clear, hey, this is what you're going for.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just, the slog of teaching it was real painful for me.
It's a teach.
And now, sitting here now, I could teach it much better right now.
Okay.
But not then. I did a terrible job of teaching it. Not that I got rules wrong necessarily, but it was just like, it was as close as we get on that weekend to someone reading the rule book. And Charlie, the guy, didn't like it. That we were talking about, and that's okay. I don't mind that he didn't like it, but I feel a little bit like it was my fault.
Yeah, I can see that
he didn't like it. And I just don't know overall if this game has a place in our collection.
Yeah. We're debating.
Yeah, it's such a different game with 5. I have never played it with 5. Usually it's just Christian and I and the Wakan, which is like the AI.
Yep.
And so I just don't know. Maybe I need to give it another run through with more than 2 players and also teach it well.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just a terrible gaming experience. It ended up being at the end where me and Charlie were both still at 0. And no, you don't score a lot of points in this game.
No, because there's a built-in rule also. If anyone has a 4-point or more lead, the game's over.
Automatic, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a built-in mercy rule. It's like, boom, they won. But what rule I did actually forget, and it's not clear, it's like buried in the rule book, which the rule book structure is just
awesome.
another thing for me. But it says the last dominance check awards double the points.
Oh.
So that would have made a difference, because then Charlie and I would have had a chance of winning.
Mm.
The way we were thinking, we were like, well, even if
you win, it's not enough.
It's not enough to catch up. So I wasn't really bummed out, because I was like, oh, I've just made it through teaching this.
We made it.
But Charlie was like, well, what's the point? My turn is useless. I can't do anything.
Yeah.
And if I would have remembered that one little sentence in the tiny print of the rule book, then maybe I would have been different. But I don't know. I don't think anyone around the table really loved it.
Okay.
And I feel like it was my fault.
I feel like it's one of those, like, it's that and John Company are together for me. They're the same designer, the same group. Like, there is a good game in there somewhere.
Yeah,
maybe it's not for us.
Yeah,
but there's a good game in there. Like, if you even look up the sit up, sit down review of John Company, like, they raved about it. Like, he said it was awesome, but he also, probably had people who were also way into it, and so like that kind of helps, especially with a game like that, and probably also with PAX, where you got to know what you're doing. You got to know what the options are, and it's very unclear when you're first playing that one. To know what direction to go.
A good teacher.
Yeah.
I will say, I'm not trying to like dump on Cole Worley, because you can clearly see the genius it would have taken to think of these games.
Sure.
I mean, you're just like, oh, I'm not even intellectually at this level.
It's like, I know where Afghanistan is, I think.
But even John Company, you're just like, this is a genius creating this game.
It's wild.
So anyway, moving on to a little bit of a upper.
Let's go back up the mountain a little bit.
What was the best new to you game that you played?
Okay, so I didn't get to play many new to you games.
Okay.
So I'm repeating Deception, Murder in Hong Kong.
Oh yeah.
So I think that was just, I had never played a deduction game like that before. I don't think there's anything new that needs to be said, but it was fun. Like I would play it again. Like I said, I would try one of the other the different categories that they have of that game. So yeah, Deception, Murder in Hong Kong.
Nice.
Yeah.
Would you choose that over like One Night Werewolf?
Yeah, I just think
Ninja?
it's more interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's a less like, I feel like it's less accusatory. There's less finger point. There is finger pointing, but it feels, less intense.
Yes.
Because sometimes there's nothing we can do about it, and if you say the murder is done by poison, then there might be 3 people at the table who have a murder weapon that is loosely affiliated with poison.
Right.
Pills. What does that mean? Poison?
Alcohol.
Alcohol. Does that mean that
poison?
or like there's a rattlesnake? Like, like, is that it? Like, so you don't know 100%.
Yeah.
Whereas you just have one roll. And it's just like, you are the werewolf and you are there's no, well, it could be.
Right.
It's just pretty yes or no.
That makes sense.
So I like that.
My best new to you game for the weekend was Food Chain Magnate.
Magnate.
Am I saying that wrong?
Magnet?
Magnet?
I think it's fine. I think it's a food chain. It's a magnet that you put on your fridge.
No, it's not that.
Magnate, yeah. Yeah, what is that? I mean, it's a very popular game.
I really liked it. I was taken in by the theme of this game, and I've always wanted to buy it. Christian's not taken in by the theme, so like the leap of $100 game for him is not.
It's an expensive game for what is in the box.
Right, you would expect it to like look like Gloomhaven.
It's very white.
With the price that it is.
It's very plain.
But it's a relatively smaller box for the price of the game.
Sure.
So anyway, it was just like, it's like creating your own food chain company.
Okay.
You start with just you as the CEO, and then you branch and hire people, and you have to pay them. So if you can't pay them, you have to fire them. You can fire them even if you can pay them. So that's different. But like if you can't pay their salary, then they have to leave your company. You try to advertise and get people in the neighborhood to buy your beer or your Coke or your hamburger.
Do you like franchise restaurants too?
Yeah, you can create more restaurants. Wow. And everyone has a different restaurant name. And yeah, there's like a physical board that you have pieces that take up space. Like, so your restaurant is a physical presence on the board.
It's like a map kind of.
Mm-hmm. But then also the branches of your company, like the intangible like structure of your company is laid out in front of you, like with cards.
The corporate structure.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I thought it was really fun. Leo did a great teach.
Great.
He was new to our group, but a relative of someone there, and it's fun to have him there. And yeah, I just felt like it can be like, he said it can be super cutthroat, and he also said it could be like a 6-hour game. I feel like everyone around the table was like really respectful of the gaming experience.
Okay.
So it was like
the ones that we look for, like just a good time had by all.
Good time had by all. Hey, if something doesn't go your way, it's not that person personally attacking you. It's just part of the game.
Yeah.
Like, because sometimes you advertise a food and somebody else sells it before you can. So it's like, I put all the money forward to advertise that and the time, but you just got the payout.
Gotcha.
So he said that can get really like...
So you like waste a turn.
Yeah.
Or two.
Yeah. And that just, I mean, it did happen, but that just wasn't, it didn't feel cutthroat to me. It just felt like, well, that's the food chain business.
Welcome to McDonald's. Is the goal to have the most money at the end? Is it points? Like, how do you determine who wins?
Yep. So the bank is set up with a certain amount of money based on the number of players. And then the first time the bank runs out, I should say at the beginning of the game, everyone puts secretly the amount of money they want in the reserve bank. And so the first time the bank runs out of money, then you reveal everyone's anonymous cards, and that's how much more money gets stocked back in the bank.
And then if it's out again.
You count up your money.
Okay. It doesn't seem like it's one for me. It seems like there's a lot of layers going on there.
You're going to play it, though.
Probably.
Because I need to play it again. It was so good. All right. Game you wish you had played.
Yeah, so like we said, there were so many games that were played up there. 26 unique games, 30 blah, blah plays.
Yep.
And so there are 2 on my list. And I'm going to add a third one that I wish I had played when I was up there. Forest Shuffle was very popular with this group. It was a quick game that our friends Nick and Kat brought. I don't even know how it plays. It just looks neat. It looks very woodlandy. It was a funny thing in looking at all the games we had. There's a lot of animal themed games. And, from Root, which, that's animal themed, to Calico, Fox Experiment, Dog Park.
Yeah.
A lot of nature. Wingspan.
I got to play Forest Shuffle.
Yeah, so it seems like one that I would like. It's just very casual. You get combinations of trees and animals, and I don't even know.
You would like it.
Okay. So yeah, I wish I would have played Forest Shuffle. Ahoy was one that I wish I played. I got to teach that one to a few guys. Some of the late stragglers that came late because of the snowstorm. I was like, let's jump in, let's be pirates. And then same kind of thing happened. He's like, oh, what's this game? Can I play? And I was like, yeah, whatever. I'll teach you how to play.
Yeah.
And that one's unique too because it's a light asymmetric game. So everyone's playing a little differently. So Ahoy. And then I'll throw Root in there. You guys played a game of Root Friday morning, which was really fun. That's one of my favorite games. I wish I would have played it, but also glad I didn't just because there's so much going on in that game and it might have just burned my brain first thing.
It might have, yeah.
So those are my 3.
All right.
How about you?
Lacrimosa.
Okay.
I wish I would have played Lacrimosa.
Yeah.
I mean, I could also add Arc Nova to that list because it didn't get played this time.
I don't think anybody played it.
No one did. No,
they were scared of how long it would have taken, I think.
No, because if it were being played, I would have abandoned whatever.
Paxmir's dead. Long live Arc Nova.
But here's the thing. Arc Nova has a fantastic solo experience. So I don't feel like, if I have to go home and play this solo, I'm missing out. I feel like I still get the experience of the game. Now, Lacrimosa has a solo that I've never tried. So maybe I should try that.
Put on the album.
Yeah.
And listen to it. Lacrimosa does have that cool player board where you can slide the cards in.
Yeah.
And it covers up what you don't need to see.
I guess it's on my list because I know you probably won't ever choose to play it. And so just next year, game weekend, I'll try it. All right. Our last thing. Good surprise of the weekend.
Good surprise. So this is just a fun category that we were like, anything that happened.
Yep.
We'll talk about.
Yep.
So I'll go first. And I will say, one thing about having a weekend like this is we have to feed everybody. Yes. And that's just a funny thing to think about. There was 17 of us. How do you feed 17 people for 3 days?
Yeah.
You buy a lot of food.
You do.
And we eat a lot of food. And we had a lot left over, which is great because you don't want to run out of food.
No,
that's
grew up like that.
That's like the worst. It must be a Midwest thing. It's like you go to grandma's house come over for a little lunch, as they'd say in Minnesota. And a little lunch is like a full-blown roast and mashed potatoes. And then you have to eat a bun, which is a sandwich with that meat on 2 hours later. So that's the Minnesota way to do it. Anyways, one thing that I enjoy doing is making smash burgers. It's one of the things I learned during COVID quarantine. I like to eat them a lot too.
You've perfected it.
And so I don't know what the deal was, but I feel like I did a really good job.
You did.
this weekend, and they tasted amazing, and I think people enjoyed them. So I enjoyed making. I think I made 50 patties.
Woo!
Yeah, and so there was a couple left over, but they were all eaten. I did Oklahoma fried onion burger. Look it up; it's awesome. I had a good time making them. Good time eating them. I kind of want to have one for lunch.
I mean, sounds good. The good surprise of the weekend for me, that more people was more enjoyable. I actually was, not like currently, but like a few months ago was like, oh man, the bigger this gets, the harder it's going to be to like feel like connected.
A part of everything.
Yeah, a part of the group. And so I just was like lamenting that we were going to have so many people. Mm-hmm. But that actually turned out to be great.
Yeah. I was kind of worried about it too, more from a food standpoint.
Well, but the food actually was great too. But I just liked that you could constantly find at least one or two other people that were ready to play a game with you, that were in the mindset of like, I don't need a break right now, I can play. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I liked that you got to play with different people. So one person even said to me like, it was Food Chain Magnate, and they were like, oh, I'll play. And then they're like, oh wait, you're playing this? I just played a game with you. Maybe I should go find another one.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Who was that?
Nate Griffey.
Oh, nice.
So I was like, yeah, you don't have to play with the same people every game.
Okay.
I liked it. And it snowed and it was so beautiful.
It was very pretty up there.
Once you were there. Some people had a little trouble getting there.
Yep.
But once you were there, it was so beautiful.
It was very nice. Yeah, the more people thing is interesting. So like I think about next year already. And maybe we can talk about this a little bit. Like if there's more people, like, I don't know, we're going to have to expand. We have a lot of room. I'm not saying we don't have a lot of room, but I can foresee things like there's a couple guys who came up who are like way into D&D. It's not our thing, but if we get enough people, like maybe a day of that, people would have a great time doing.
Yeah.
And so like I envision like there's another cabin that's called, they call it the Longhouse. And it's a huge long house.
Imagine that.
And it's a funny setup because there's one bedroom in there. And it's like a big giant studio, but it's just a huge long house. So we could set up some like D&D sessions down the hill.
Yeah.
For a few hours, play games upstairs. Like there's a lot that we could do and to expand like availability and different types of things that we do. So
right.
I can't, like next year more than 20, that'd be wild.
It's fun. And this year was the first year that I was not the only female.
That's true. That was fun. That was a good addition. More women.
More women. Let's be inclusive.
So yeah, it was very cool. What do you ever think about like how we would expand it or do something different or?
I think it would just become about like expanding the space, because right now there's 3 huge tables.
Yes. Game-worthy tables.
Game-worthy tables in the main cabin.
Yep.
You could probably squeeze in 2 games, not squeeze even, but like have 2 games going at one of the tables, because one of them is like a ginormous long dining table.
The royal table that we call it the royal
table.
Yeah.
So that one could definitely have 2 games going on it.
Yeah.
So I feel like we could maximize even just the main cabin space better. And then if we needed to, like you said, we'd have to move into one of the other buildings.
There's probably room for like one folding table too area by the fireplace. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely places to go and people that we could add. It's hard to imagine what that would look like.
Yeah. But I think we all like playing in the main cabin, because even if you're not playing the same game, you're all just in the same space, so you can like, run into each other in the kitchen or like... Yeah,
it'd be kind of a bummer. I mean, if it has to happen, it has to happen. But like if we had to move some like D&D, or if people were like way into some miniature game, they set that up downstairs, and that's where that happens. And so we'd have to go down there and see, or I don't know, live feed. Let's check in with the Warhammer crew.
Text them like, hey, how are you guys? Yeah, but overall, just like super looking forward to next year.
Yeah, maybe this becomes a thing and we have to go to the Sholo Convention Center.
Oh my gosh.
Which probably is smaller than the property we're on.
Yeah. Sholo is a very tiny town in Arizona. So, yeah, the convention center would not be a huge thing.
Well, we hope you enjoyed our little chat about a board game weekend. Have you guys ever done one?
I want to hear.
Even a day dedicated to board games is fun to do.
Yeah.
We've done holiday weekends in the past where we've maybe not the whole weekend, but we've just been like a Sunday into a Monday off. We've been like, let's see how many games we can play.
Yeah.
And even, and just see how that goes. So that's always fun to do. Do you have a game that you always look forward to? Do you have the opportunity to do something like this? Would you want to come to Arizona?
Absolutely.
I did say one person crossed state lines. We have a friend of a friend who's in the Army, and he took leave, flew to Arizona, drove up, played games with us this weekend, flew back.
Yeah.
It was very fun.
So we're serious. If you're serious about coming to Arizona in the mid-February, you have an invitation.
But here's the deal. It probably will snow. So if you're trying to get away from snow, it probably will snow.
Yeah, for us, we're trying to find snow.
Yeah. We're going from 50 degrees up to 30 degrees, not negative 12 to 50 to 30. It still might be great for you.
We don't know. We would love to hear about if you've ever done something like this, or if you haven't, like, what are your dreams for what board gaming day or weekend could look like?
Yeah, I wonder, like, a tournament of some sort of game. Would that be fun?
Right.
Like a whole... And then there's that one game, Don't Get Got.
Right.
Like an overarching whole weekend type of game. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of fun things we can do.
Yeah.
Well, and just take a quick break and then just come back and we'll wrap up the show.
Sounds good.
All right, guys, we are wrapping up the show like we do every show by counting it down. No, we're going to talk about a little bit stuff going on outside of the board game world. Angela, anything bringing you joy outside of board games?
Yeah. So first, there's something bringing me joy inside a board game.
That's not the question, but
okay.
I always change the question on you, and you hate it. So
I just thought of it. I've been really enjoying playing solo.
Okay.
Recently.
I guess I'll move out.
No, that's not what I'm saying. It's not scarcity. I have love for everything. So that's that. And then my thing outside of board games, I would have to say, don't judge me, you guys. I just watched Deadpool, the first one, for the first time.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And that brought me a lot of joy.
Really? I see, sitting next to you watching this, I wouldn't have thought that.
Oh, really?
I don't know why. I just thought it was like, when it was over, you'd be like, that was a good movie.
Oh, no, it was good.
Okay.
I think if I would have watched it when it came out, I would have been more like that. But now that I've had, like, just the whole MCU, but then also, like, Marvel Champions.
You know a little bit more about who he is. And,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Deadpool.
What about you?
The only thing that comes to mind goes straight to my stomach, and that is chocolate chip cookies.
Oh, yes.
So to tie this nice bow all back together.
Sure.
The first year we had board game weekend, we brought up a bunch of cookie dough. Mm-hmm. And we made cookies that whole weekend.
Yes, we
and
did.
Everyone was like, these are so good.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just funny that we just made cookies. There was only 5 of us, so we each had, I don't know, 7 dozen cookies, whatever. And then when we got home, you made cookies randomly, and they were just really good. We actually hadn't had them for quite a while.
Yes.
So they were very good. You make a good chocolate chip cookie.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, man, Angela, what are you reading these days?
Oh, you got me. Okay. Well, I am currently reading a book called The Wishing Game.
Okay.
You can think of it as if Hunger Games met Willy Wonka.
So,
But not YA. So it's not young adult.
Okay.
It's
a children's book.
Yeah. It's not a children's book. It is about an author who writes children's books.
Okay.
But yeah, so there's like there's like a game element, like the Hunger Games, but then only certain people are invited. It's like a golden ticket type thing with Willy Wonka.
But you get killed?
You don't get killed.
Oh.
But it is a game.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you win something life-changing.
Sure. It's like The Game starring Michael Douglas.
It is not like The Game starring Michael Douglas. And then I'm currently listening to a book called The Magician's Assistant. I'm not that far into it, so I just really want to highlight the last book I was listening to.
Yeah, you would laugh out loud.
Oh my gosh, you guys. It's called Sure, I'll Join Your Cult.
Okay.
And it's Maria Bamford, and she is a comedian, actress. You've probably seen her in a show or heard her voice on animation. And it was so good.
Okay.
If anyone in your life or you yourself, like me, have been on a mental health journey and you have one iota of a sense of humor, this is so good. So good.
Okay. That's a good one.
So, on that note, have you been reading anything, Christian?
Well, I don't know. Well, thanks for asking.
Yeah.
I have a problem with books. I think I've said that before. But so like I reserve a bunch at the library through the library app, so you can get them audible. You can get the audiobook. And so what happens is I get one that I'm kind of interested in, and I start listening to it, and then one that I've been waiting for months is like, it's ready. And I'm like, oh man. So then I start that one, and then this literally happened is I ran out of time. Because you only get them for a certain amount of days. And I was like 74% done. And I was like, would you like to renew? I said, yes. And it said, you can't.
That was a mean prompt.
Yeah. And so like, I was like, I'll just put my name back on the list. So I was at the top of the list because I had the book. And now I'm at the bottom of the list. And it's like, there are 74 people waiting ahead of you. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll read this in April or May.
Wow. You really got to read, you really got to just pack that in when you get up.
I know. I'm reading one called Pines by Blake Crouch.
There you go.
So it's a sequel to... No, I'm reading one called Wayward, which is a sequel to Pines.
Gotcha.
I think I talked about that before. And it's just a good book. It's okay.
Okay, great review.
That's going to be my next show. It's just like Christian reviews books. And you're just like...
It's okay.
It's a 4-second podcast episode every week. Yeah, it's fine.
Oh, man. Okay, well, you didn't come here for our book reviews. We would love to hear about your experience with board gaming weekends or your dreams about board gaming weekends or days. Let us know if you have an experience with any of the games we mentioned, good or bad. We would love to hear it and commiserate with each other. And also, you know, Christian and I just love to like be like, ha, this person is on my side, so I'm right. So we loved your feedback. We might mention you on the next podcast episode. And until then,
Toodaloo?
Toodaloo. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Married and Bored podcast. And guess what? We have a website where you can listen to podcast episodes and so much more. Find us at marriedandbored.com, or you can email us at hello@marriedandbored.com, or follow us on Instagram at marriedandbored. Music in this episode is by Joseph McDade. See you next time.